Hey, my name is Aaron Burke. Welcome to the Made for More Leadership Podcast. I'm super pumped that you're joining me. Help me out right now by liking this or subscribing to this podcast. We are seeing incredible responses from leaders all over who are taking this and sharing it with their teams. If you tag me on Instagram, I'm always reposting it because it's so cool to see lives being transformed, people going to the next level in their leadership. God isn't done with you. He's got a lot in store for you. So thanks for taking the time to listen to this. We're going to have an awesome discussion today because I'm really looking forward to this because this is an area that I've always been kind of weak in, but I'm trying to get a little bit stronger. So we have the expert in the field when it comes to being a creative leader. So as a leader, learning how to think outside the box. I'm here today with our special guest, pastor, leader, David Steele. If you don't know who David Steele is, he is our executive leader over all of our creative ministries here at Radiant Church. So before people kind of hear about your role, give us a little bit behind the scenes of the David Steele life. Who are you? Kind of what do you do?
First off, Pastor Aaron, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. This is a big deal. For those that don't know, I'm originally from Pensacola, Florida. I was a pastor's kid raised in church my whole life. I somehow at the age of 16 stumbled into your youth group. And I've kind of been with you ever since. When you moved down here to launch Radiant in 2013, you approached me and said, "Hey, I feel like you're supposed to be a part of this thing." I very quickly said, "I agree 100%. I'll move down."
Crazy.
And started off as our drummer here at our South Tampa location when we were just one location. And then it was going to Southeastern University for kind of seminary, and ended up meeting my wife there freshman year. We started dating, and then came on staff 2 years into Radiant, and then have been living the dream with you and the Radiant family ever since. So it's
and big deals in your life right now is your wife is having
our first child,
kid. This is a big deal.
A little baby boy. Yeah, a little boy.
That's
so it's going to be a big deal. Yeah.
I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your role here at Radiant. What do you do?
Yeah, so I oversee all of our experience department. So what that looks like for Radiant is that's our worship teams across all locations, production, creative, and creative in the sense of, because that's a broad term, which we'll get into in a few minutes, but creative in the sense of like anything that has to do with like print, text, font, graphics, video, any kind of promotional marketing, things like that. I oversee our online location, which is one of our newest locations here at Radiant. It's a big deal. And then anything to do with like outbound strategic marketing, anything like that, kind of getting the brand of Radiant Church out to the world. That's kind of what I oversee.
You know, people tell me all the time, they're like, your church is so creative. Aaron, how do you do all this? And they have no clue that the behind the scenes is I don't do any of it. It is all the mastermind of David Steele. So you guys are going to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of what we do here, how we lead in a creative outside the box perspective in our industry. We believe our whole focus is reaching people, and to reach people that nobody else is reaching, we got to do some things that nobody else is doing.
That's good.
So we're going to talk about that. Maybe in your industry, it's different. What your bottom line is, but your focus is still to kind of go outside the box. So we're gonna talk about that. But before we do, we're gonna do a little lightning round. I think this will be a lot of fun, so people get to know who David Steele is. They see you on the stage. They see you, putting out music and doing all that you do. Yeah. But the behind the scenes of David is actually very fun. You're one of my favorite people on the planet. So, David, your favorite cereal?
Favorite cereal? First off, this gave me more anxiety about this piece of this podcast than the entire one of it.
I know.
I would have to say, I love sugar cereal in general, but I'd have to say favorite would be Fruit Loops with marshmallows.
Fruit Loops with marshmallows? They put marshmallow?
Game changer.
Isn't that called Lucky Charms?
No. Lucky Charms is trash. Lucky Charms, like, if they could just take a bag of the Lucky Charms with just the marshmallows, that's all it'd take. But the Fruit Loops with marshmallows is a game changer.
All right. What is your favorite Netflix show?
This changes seasonally.
Yeah.
I was an Office fan forever.
They're gone.
It's on Peacock. So
Nobody has Peacock.
I have 100% Peacock.
That's a weird name.
That's a weird thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
And right now I'm on a major Friends kick. So
really?
I'm watching Friends every night. It's something that Alicia and I do right before we go to bed.
The laugh track doesn't get you messed up?
No,
I can't
not at
deal
all.
with the laugh
We
track.
laugh for them enough.
Really?
We don't need a laugh track. And which you a friends person?
Not at
all?
all. Not
Okay,
at all.
never mind.
No,
All
my
right.
wife is though.
Okay,
she does the whole like. Remember that episode where I don't know Ross does this, and I'm like, no, I never watched Friends.
Okay. And then for those that haven't watched this, it's on Fox, so you have to have Hulu to watch it because we don't have cable. But Prodigal Son is actually
good?
fantastic.
Really?
It's like a little dark sometimes, but it's about like profiling for serial killers because the profiler, the main character, his dad is a serial killer.
Ooh.
So he learns this whole like life of profiling a serial killer based off of his dad, and it's absolutely amazing.
All right, some books, maybe 1 or 2 books other than the Bible that you've read that impacted your life.
Yeah, so I've read this one a couple of times, but it's probably my favorite by Stephen Covey is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
I'm leading a small group right now, actually, with a group of men on that.
Sweet.
Really, really great overall. And then one of the books that I was going to talk about today is a book called Herding Tigers. And it's
Not now. Let me just be careful. It's not hurting.
No, it's not herding
like
tigers.
You attack the tigers.
Herding, like shepherding tigers.
Okay, very good.
And a great book on creativity. I just love books. I just keep purchasing books. The problem is I purchase books and I don't all the way finish them.
I get it.
Another one is Creativity Inc. about the story of Pixar and how Pixar came to be and like the inner workings of that. Another really great one. So,
all right, 2 more questions.
Yep.
What does a day off look like for David Steele? You're like, I already
you know
said
what
it.
this is. You know what this is.
No,
That's why
I
you
don't
asked
know
that
it.
question.
It's all the shows I just mentioned on Netflix. No. What is it? What do you do to
A day
relax?
off for me so we work Sunday through Thursday in the Radiant Life, and so Fridays for me is I go to a local coffee shop. My favorite is probably King State here locally in Tampa. I'll go to King State, grab some cold brew, maybe some breakfast, and then I will go to Nordstrom's and I will walk around Nordstrom's. I don't have enough money to buy anything at Nordstrom's.
That's true. Yes.
But I will walk around and just strategize and plan on what I'm going to buy whenever I save up enough money to buy things from Nordstrom's.
That sounds like a fun day off. All right. So actually 2 more questions.
Okay.
If you could eliminate one fast food restaurant from the planet, like nobody would ever have to eat there again, what would you eliminate?
Burger King, hands down. Easiest question.
Really?
Burger King.
Why?
Burger King is trash. Burger King is... It is, if you want to go to Burger King, get a terrible food and also an even worse experience, then Burger King is your place to go.
That's true.
They don't remember your order. They 9 times out of 10 will get it wrong.
No.
And they're mad at you for actually being there and
They
ordering
are
it.
mad. They're mad at you for being there. I forgot that. Their breakfast is so good. It's my
It's
go-to
nothing
Sunday
compared
morning
to
breakfast, by the way.
McDonald's. The McDonald's biscuit is out of this world.
The French toast sticks, where you dip them. I'm telling you, they're good. They used to have cinnamon rolls that were mini cinnamonies that were game changers.
Hilarious.
Anyway, all right. One last question before we get into the content.
Yep.
You are about to release our very first album.
Yes.
And which I'm so excited about.
Me too.
You wrote a song a few years ago that we released. Tell everybody about it so that they know about it. So
Yeah, The King Has Come.
that was your big hit.
It was.
I
was a little worried. I was like a one-hit wonder. You know what I mean?
I
was a
thought you were
little
going to be
scared
our
about that.
Hanson. Just create one big hit.
It was a song like I've always I've written songs since I was a kid. Like my first song was called Midnight, and
was it a love song?
No, it wasn't. It was like a worship song, but it could have been a love song. And I wrote it as a kid, and then always just was writing songs, had different things like that, leading worship at a very young age. And then when I came down to help plant the church and I started Southeastern, I got super busy and I just got caught up with the church life, kind of helping build Radiant, and then dating Alicia, and then eventually getting married. And I was taking 18 credit hours every semester, going back and forth between Tampa and Lakeland, and I just kind of fell off of it. And so whenever I graduated Southeastern a couple of years ago, I was like, man, I really feel like I need to start picking this back up. I feel like it's what God's called me to do. And it was probably a couple of months before Easter, and I was like writing in my bed, and I was literally just like reading the Easter story, and there's a line that jumped out from scripture about how the guard stepped back in front, like stayed overnight in front of the tomb. And to me, that was just like the most audacious way of the enemy just being like, not only did we kill your savior, but we're going to just guard and just like show like an extra ounce of just like pride in the fact that like we're relishing in this. And then like there's a story of like how like Jesus overcomes death, hell, and the grave. The tomb opens up and all the guards just flee. And I just thought was like that perspective. What a boss way of Jesus to come back and literally just stick it to the enemy. And so we wrote the song "The King Has Come." And since then, the church loved it. The church rallied around it, and it's been an awesome thing that we've seen so far. So,
all right. So people that are interested in Radiant Church's music, where can they find it?
Yeah. So we are Radiant. Is on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, anywhere music is at, and then on our YouTube channel, we are Radiant as well. So
that's awesome. So if you're listening to this far into the future, you can go and check out our album that was already released. I'm sure it went to a Grammy award.
Easy.
I'm sure it did.
Of course. Yes.
But if you didn't, you can find it on Spotify. They're on YouTube. If you're listening to this as that comes out, this is coming out the first Wednesday of April. Our album is actually coming out this week.
Yeah,
so it's
Citizens.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, really,
it's
really
called
excited
Citizens,
about it.
so we're really excited. Okay, we're going to talk about a leadership perspective that I love, which is the idea of being creative. You have a lot of people listening. They're going, that's awesome. I'm not creative. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say first off, that's a lie. I think creativity is honestly one of those things that has a lot of weird context or illusions that is built around the idea. And really, I think if you have breath in your lungs, you have the potential of being creative. Okay. And I think we believe this on a Christian perspective. I know there's maybe people that are business leaders or people that maybe don't attend church or in different walks of faith. But as a Christian from that perspective, there's a theological term called the Imago Dei, which is basically the image of God. Right. And because we believe that we were all created in the image of God, we all have God's DNA running inside of each and every single one of us. Our creator, the God that created everything, that created the heavens, the earth, all the nature and the mountains and the oceans, that creativity, that potential lives inside of each and every single one of us. And so we all in our own ways have the ability to be creative. Maybe it's not in the sense that we think classically of art or music or in our world videos or graphics, but maybe you have the ability to be creative in solutions for your industry. You have creativity in leadership. I think you started off the podcast talking about how you don't feel like you're a creative leader. I think you're actually one of the most brilliant creative leaders. I think whenever you look at coming in, even in the way that you've led Radiant and how awesome you've done at just strategically building this place to be a church for the lost, and a church where people far from God can come and experience Him and move from where they are to where God wants them to be. That is all creativity. That takes vision. It takes imagination. It takes the courage to be able to do something that nobody's done before. And so every single person, whether that's your marriage, you have the creative ability to make your marriage something that's better than what it could be. Raising your kids, there's creative outlets in the sense of you're parenting this human being, and so you're strategically coming up with different ideas of how to interact with them, how to socialize with them, how to raise them in the right way. I think everybody has creative potential. It's just whether they see it or not.
Okay, so if you tell me I have creative abilities, how do I tap into that in my life? How do I become a person that walks in the creativity that God has put inside of me, whether it's in my industry or my business, thinking outside the box? How do I tap into that?
Yeah, so that's the tricky question, right? That's the thing is, I feel like when it comes to this idea, I love this idea of how creativity is actually more about tenacity than it is about talent. And that's a thing to think about in the sense of I view creative. There's a pastor I really look up to. His name's Stephen Furtick. He's written all of elevation worship stuff. Sure. And he talks about how creativity, the process of it is actually more for digging for gold than it is just painting something beautiful. Right. It's this idea, if it's work, it's tirelessly every single day, putting in a grind, I think we look at sometimes these big celebrities. We look at these big people who are really, really popular or have done these big things. Most recently here in Tampa Bay, we're celebrating the Super Bowl. We're celebrating Tom Brady coming in and just legit being the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
And one of the things that is crazy about Tom Brady is actually he's not known for being the most talented quarterback. He's actually just known for being the most hardworking quarterback.
That's really good.
And if you look at it going into the Super Bowl, into this most recent Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes in every single way is known as being the most creative, out of the box, throws the most beautiful passes, just out of this world creative when it comes to being a quarterback in football. And you've got Tom Brady, who's literally just kind of plain vanilla, kind of just does the same play action plays. It's impressive that I know that.
I have no clue what that is about.
He doesn't do anything that's overly like braggy or overly spectacular. He just puts in the meticulous work, that tenacity. And I think to be creative, it's just simply looking at what you've been given and just going, how can I make this better? And how can I continue to dig and find the gold in what it is that I'm stewarding over?
Okay, so that takes a little bit of work because our natural tendency is to just go, I'm going to just do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what's easy.
Yeah.
But doing what is creative and doing what is easy don't go hand in hand. No. You have to dig a little bit deeper because really everybody is going the easy route.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do creative, if you could sing everybody else's songs,
sure,
that's easy.
Yep.
Writing your own, that's going to take some work.
Yes.
So doing what everybody else's play is easy. I mean, doing your own, that's going to take some work, take some little bit of digging. How do you create the margin or the drive to do that?
Yeah. So I feel like there's this saying that I've heard of like, to create attention, you have to create attention. And there's like this idea of like that you have to find like a problem, like a tension to then create, like find a solution for. And so I think in whatever industry that you're in and whatever sphere of life that you're in, it's finding, man, what is the thing? What is the problem that I'm facing? What is the tension that I'm experiencing in my industry that really makes me want to come up with something out of the box to make this industry better.
Right.
I love Andy Stanley. It has this this quote that he says of like, he asks himself every once in a while, what is the thing that if I were to implement into my business or into my arena or his ministry, that would change the game for my field? And I think it's like, I think back to this, the idea of like the famous Henry Ford quote that was like, if I would have asked other people of what they would like, as far as transportation, what they would need, they would have said a faster horse, rather than creating the tension in the sense of like, man, what if there's this out of the box idea called a car that could actually get people to way faster and you don't have to use horses. So it's figuring out like, what is that thing and looking at whatever you have, if that's your job, if that's your family, if that's your marriage, how do I make this better? What can I do in thinking outside of the box to make that thing better?
Okay. And so here's my challenge to give people, because when I've applied this to my life, is that you have to stop thinking there's only two options. So I don't think creativity comes until you're probably in the fourth or fifth option.
Yeah.
So I just had a guy meet with me in my office. Same thing. I've got a problem to solve, but I told him, before you get in my office, I want at least 4 solutions.
Yeah.
Because you're really not creative until you're getting down to that 4th, 5th solution, because everybody thinks of the first 2.
Yeah.
And everybody's already on the same page with the first 2. Everybody already knows those first 2 things. You get creative by thinking of options, by digging a little bit deeper.
And so I love that you're talking about that, because I think sometimes we honestly, we don't allow time to take risks. And we don't allow time to, and if you're going to have any kind of creativity, you're going to have to take some major risks.
Right.
I love, I was talking about the book, Creativity, Inc., the story of Pixar. It takes years for them to make one film. We think that they're living in this, like they're doing this whole thing and they just like are creating these stories. No, they go through numbers of different layers of reviews, visions. They have to revisions. They have to basically storyboard an entire script out, present it to an entire team, then they get the thumbs up on go ahead on that. Yep, that looks good. That story looks good. Then they start animating, start creating things, and they bring it to what they call a brain trust, which is a group of people that basically watch and go, that doesn't make sense. That line doesn't make sense. And then they have to go back, start from scratch, rebuild it. I think too many times to be creative, it just takes too long for us, especially in our culture and society today. We want the next thing. We want the next idea. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of Jeff Bezos, who's like the wealthiest man in the world now, owner of Amazon, founder of Amazon. And I think it was like from the early 90s. And it's just him in his office with like this banner behind with like spray paint that says Amazon. Yep. And it's like, it's the idea of like, oh, this guy's an overnight success. No, it's not true. This guy's actually been trying this product for years and decades, and changing things and tweaking ideas and tweaking systems. Oftentimes, we just don't view that as creativity, and we also don't view that as we don't take the time to just simply create and allow there to be time for revisions, time for edits, time for tweaks, time for changes throughout. I love your idea, throughout multiple ideas rather than just sticking to the 1 or 2.
You know, one of the things I challenged you with when we went into this year is you came in my office for your annual review and you said, okay, what's the target for next year?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't care if you do anything else. The number one thing I want you to do is write an album.
Yep.
Like, I want this to be the thing.
Yeah.
So you had to design your time around, okay, I got to create some margin. I got to say no to some things so that I can say yes to this. I think there's probably a lot of leaders that are watching that if you said no to some simple task that you are doing, you would actually free up some margin to be able to dream a little bit. Do you have margin in your schedule to think outside of the box, to think bigger, to think beyond the two solutions?
So good.
And then the other question would be, okay, do I have the margin? And then the other thing is, do I have the people that I can throw out ideas with?
So good.
We've started this with our team, and I love it, where we get together and we do brainstorming sessions. So the last few sermon series that we've done here, it's probably more than that, have been because of a team came up with it. I never even came up with Love Handles. Love Handles is our series right now. I was just on a call with some, I did a video today with pastors, and he's like, oh yeah, we love your Love Handles series. How do you come up with that? I was like, a 20-something-year-old on our team came up with that idea. It's the idea of giving a group a room to kind of dream a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So how would they start that?
Yeah, that's good. So first off, on the real quick before we go into that, you talked about like just giving opportunity and space to dream. Sometimes, again, I think we tend to don't view ourselves as creative. Like I going into this, when you invited me into this, I'm sitting there thinking like, I don't feel like I'm a creative leader. Yeah, I oversee creative things. You said it yourself. You classified, you don't feel like you're a creative leader. Again, all of us have creativity and potential to be creative in whatever sphere that we're in. I love the story of in World War II, I think it was General Patton or future President Dwight D. Eisenhower that would literally they would have margin in their calendar to simply sit at their desk and look at the map of the battle and just strategically come up with ideas of how do we win the war. That's awesome. And I think so quickly, too many times, we're just sitting there trying to get the next thing, get the next target, that we don't take time to actually dream. I would challenge whoever's listening to this, man, go on a walk. I think some of the times I'll have to literally just force myself out of my environment. So if you have to work this out with your boss, make sure you clear communication on this. But I challenge my team, like, get out of the office for a second, clear your head, take a moment to breathe, take a moment to go on a walk, do something, and get out of it. I think so many times we're so intense on just, we have to make this happen. We have to make this happen. We have to make this happen. And really, you just need to take a second and like literally just let it breathe and then come back to it. And it's worked out so many times. As far as
let me just say something along that, because so many leaders are working in their industry that they don't have time to work on their industry.
That's good.
And if you're in it so much, you don't have an idea and the perspective to look from the 30,000 foot view of going, oh, let me look at the big picture of it. Some of my best ideas of the church have come through seasons where I'm on vacation. Yeah. And I'm not sitting there thinking day to day, how do I get through this? I'm thinking big picture. And if you're going to be a creative leader, you need to take a step back and go, where is my moments in my calendar where I can dream, where I can think big, where I can look at the big picture, schedule them in there, because you're an important part of your organization because you work in it. But you will be an instrumental part of your organization if you will work on it by being the dreamer, being creative, and learning how to take it to the next level. Okay, so we created the margin. How do we brainstorm with some people? Yeah, so I think it's fostering a creative culture. And I think there's some really key principles to this is honestly creating an environment where people actually have a say. It's a big deal. So many times as leaders, we want to be the one with the great idea. Yep. I want to be the one. Honestly, in this album, it pains me to tell you this. On this album that's coming up, which is going to have 9 to 10 songs on it, I only wrote 3 of the 9 songs. Right. I wrote 3 the rest, of this. If people were asking, it was me that wrote them. That's good. And I just realized, man, I can be the leader that's going to I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the one that forces this. Or I can actually multiply with my leadership and with people and getting more people involved and getting our team involved. And here's the crazy thing is I can do it pretty good by myself, but man, I can do it exceptionally well with other people. Yep. And so my thing is, man, how I've gone into setting up our worship department, how I've gone into setting up our production and creative teams, is I just surround myself with people who are better at this craft than I am. Yep. As the leader, like it's more pridefully more fun for me to be the smartest or the brightest in the room.
But actually within my creative team, I was sitting there thinking about today, like, how did I even get this? And it's like, oh, I looked for people that were literally better at creative than I was. I have two graphic designers on staff who are some of the most creative, out of the box designers that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. They just come up with ideas that are out of nowhere. The guys that are filming this episode in here, like, they're some of the most creative videographers, thinkers, all of those, like all the above. And so we just get them in a room, and I just have to be okay with like my voice not being the loudest in the room, allowing them margin to speak. There's the book I referenced, Herding Tigers, again, herding, not hurting. And how creatives can sometimes be tigers to lead. They have emotions and they have passion, and so many times as leaders that can create insecurities in our own selves because they have opinions, they have things to say. They can sometimes, and you have to foster that environment where you give them permission to say, like, hey, I don't know if that's the best idea, or things like that. But letting them literally just letting them go, letting them off the leash a little bit, and letting them just create, and then coming back, and your job as the leader is to steer the vision. Hey, that's a wonderful idea, but it doesn't really meet the target. I think also another thing is allowing risks, I think one of the things that can kill a creative culture faster than anything is this a fear culture, a culture where like you will no longer take risks anymore because of fear of failure, a fear of not meeting deadlines, a fear of, and all of this has to be done within margin. But allowing a place where your team and the people around you can actually have ideas, can contribute ideas, and they don't have a fear of, man, if I speak up too loud, I'm going to get shot down. If I come up with this idea, they're going to think it's like dumb, or they're going to call me out in front of people. Foster an environment where people can be better than you and actually can contribute to their ideas.
It's brilliant ideas. I think of some of our brainstorming sessions. And I've been in sessions with leaders where they go, okay, I'm here to brainstorm. And then as soon as someone throws out an idea, they go, no, not that idea.
Yeah, that's a stupid idea.
Yeah. Please don't ever do that.
Yeah.
You will stifle the creativity of the room if people think as soon as I speak, I'm going to be judged on what I say.
Yep.
Like, you need to be able to have that open environment that people can throw out ideas, and you're writing everything down. That doesn't mean you're using everything. And then the ability to take risk.
Yes.
That's been a big one for us at Radiant Church, where we're like, we don't know if it's going to work.
I
mean, we a few months ago, we changed up our video announcements. It was a big risk. I mean, you would have thought it was video announcement gate at our church. For some people in our church, they were like, it's so crazy. We're like, give it a risk. And it was a big win.
Yeah.
But I think there's been other times we've tried some stuff and we're like, ugh, that was crazy.
Yeah, and it didn't work well at all.
It didn't, but it was worth a try.
Exactly.
And there's been moments, I'll just brag on David for a little bit. There's been moments where like, Aaron, we can change this and you'll be right, but we'll lose on the long run because we're going to kill the creative team of the church.
Yeah.
You got to choose our battles.
Yeah.
So there's times I'll suck it up and go, okay, it's not my preference,
Right.
but the goal is better, which is a creative church.
Right.
Even if I'm not totally behind this idea. And I think some of you guys have just got to be behind the idea that, man, you're okay taking some risk. One of the things, and David doesn't need to say it because he is young, but one of the things I'm really working on is being very intentional at having young voices at the table.
Yeah.
To have only 30-year-olds at your creative meeting is not a wise idea. Having 21-year-olds is very smart.
Yeah.
People that are thinking different. I remember one of the challenges the Lord gave us a while ago is we got to get younger as a church, even though we would be considered the young church
yeah, seriously.
in town. And part of that is you got to get younger voices at the table.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's how you get to a place where, how do you have a Burger King to throw Burger King under the bus a little bit?
No, it's okay.
And a ChickfilA.
I don't think any of their management's listening to this.
To have a Burger King and a ChickfilA. And you look at this idea of like Burger King's been around forever.
Yep.
And ChickfilA hasn't been around as long, but ChickfilA has been like diligent about allowing, and what I've heard is even throughout this whole COVID season, they allowed different ideas to be fostered up from the ground level.
Yep.
They didn't have some executives in Atlanta that they were just sitting there brainstorming and coming up with ideas. No, they empowered the delegation down to the owners and the franchise owners of everything. And now we have this whole new system of like you order outside and they deliver it outside.
That's
and
brilliant.
They do all this whole thing, and it's completely revolutionized the industry and how quickly you can get your food in the drive-thru in a COVID season.
Yep.
And again, it's like there's a quote by General Patton that said, "If every one of you thinks alike, somebody's not thinking." And it's this idea of like, I'll say that one more time. If everyone is thinking alike, somebody's not thinking. And sometimes it's easy just to come up with stay in your own circle, stay within your own little executive suite, and you talk through your own little business plan with your business leaders that are just like you. And then you wonder why you're no longer the cutting edge in your area and your arena and your thing and whatever God's called you to, and allow other people in, allow other voices to be said without cutting them down.
One last little thing on this is figuring out a system to make sure people that are on the ground floor can get it up to you.
That's huge.
I think Chick-fil-A does this very well. We've worked really hard on this, even during the pandemic, of sending out multiple surveys, because I know what I think about stuff, but we'd send out surveys. And I remember a few weeks ago, we sent out a survey and everybody's like, we already did a survey a few months ago when we went back into regathering and services. And people are like, nobody's going to respond. We had 2,000 responses within a few hours. People want to be a part of a place. They have a voice. So we created an ideas@weareradiant.com
email.
An email where anybody on our team can send up ideas, and it doesn't go to their director. It goes straight to our team, straight to our executive leadership team. Because our whole thing is the people on the front lines have the greatest things, the greatest ideas. The cashier knows how to move the system better than the manager that's in the office. So they're the one interacting. So find a way to get the creative ideas out of those on your front lines. All right. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah. And again, I think that's creativity. I think anything that's thinking through, how can I make this better? If I could leave with saying one more thing to any business leader out there, honestly, any stay-at-home mom, anybody that's like, just whatever God has placed you in, whatever season that you're in, you are empowered to be creative. Think outside of the box. Allow people and voices in your life. I love the Proverbs from Proverbs 11:14. Wisdom is found in a multitude of counselors. Man, like in anything that I do, I'm going to try to just make it better, be a good steward of it, think of how I can take it from this to be the greatest thing that's possible. And that, in my mind, is creativity. And so you are empowered, you are encouraged to be a strategic, creative leader.
You have heard it from the one and only David Steele, our executive pastor over our experiences and all of our creative stuff here at Radiant Church. The new album drops on April 9th. The 9th. It's called Citizens. You don't want to miss it. If you're watching this after or listening to this after, make sure you go check it out on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever it's at. By the way, thank you guys for liking and subscribing. Send me some comments. I want to know how we can make this podcast better, which, by the way, I'm working on some content that's going to be happening over the summer. I'd love for your ideas. You have a topic that wants to be discussed or you want us to tackle. You have someone you want me to interview. Send me their information. I want to make this better. And you're on the ground floor, so I want to make this the most creative podcast you listen to. Made for More. I hope it's been helpful. We'll see you on the next episode.